Guys all in here, aren't
Hi.
you?
Hi. Saying your name for the recording.
Danny Cannon.
Hi, Danny. Welcome to the table. Danny
Alex.
Can we start with the obvious question as far as from a director's point of view, Danny? What was the sort of the visual sensibility or the aesthetic that you were trying to get across with Gotham as opposed to any of the other sort of Batman-related projects, or maybe even trying to make this completely different from anything else?
Well, not completely different because I wanted it to fit into this great canon of work that's been going for 75 years, but at the same time make it contemporary, and at the same time it's 20 years from Batman basically. So we talked about a few things, myself and the writer, when we first met, and it seemed like everything we had in that first meeting has played out, which is New York in the 70s was a brilliant, dangerous time, like the late 70s, not just because of all the graffiti on the trains and the rundown Bronx and Harlem and all these dangerous places that you could go to, these falling down places, but culturally it was really good, like music, films, it was a hip-hop starting, it was, new wave, everything was, culturally it was really great. We talked about that a lot, but at the same time I talked about Dickensian London and the have and the have-nots and that industrial revolution age, and that's something I wanted to bring into it, the fact that a city that hasn't been gentrified yet is still locked in the past and probably falling down a little bit, so all the sets are designed slightly askew with, like slightly going down, like the whole thing is crumbling or being held up with girders and things like that. And then the last thing we spoke about was grim fairy tales and the fact that there's a dark fairy tale element to honour the comic book idea of it. And so those three elements thrown together, and then the most important thing is to keep your feet on the ground so it feels real and relatable.
It seems like it also has like a color, its own color palette too, like a texture that we haven't really seen in other, comic book adaptations too.
Yeah, no, I mean that was just because with all of those influences coming in, there are certain gels you can't do. There was a contemporary look we didn't do. I mean, we could do a test now basically where it's like, is this a Gotham car? Is that a Gotham car? Is this a Gotham gun? Is that a Gotham gun? It's the same thing as colours, and trying to get the crew's taste and the performers' tastes into that same thing it's good, and it was easier than we thought. It's quite, nobody knows what period it is, but it feels comfortable because it all feels very familiar. But nothing's sticking out at you to portray that theatrical reality.
So are you saying in a way that Gotham itself is a character?
Without doubt, yeah, without doubt. That's why the show, and that was very much Bruno's intention, was it had to be a character, and all the designing I did was on that. Was myself and the production designer drew for a long time just to get. Well, I found myself, it wasn't just drawing the new buildings that I wanted to insert into New York or take away the glass buildings out of New York and insert older Dickensian style turn of the century English buildings. I drew skies, and that was fun. I don't know where that came from. I was listening to music and I started drawing stormy skies everywhere, and I was like, that's it. That's when I got it. Was when I put a stormy sky on everything.
Gotham was such a huge hit on Twitter for its premiere week, and it beat every other television show that week.
Did it really?
Yes. So how do you feel about such a huge success?
I really feel like I should get on Twitter. Obviously doesn't need
time
me.
like the present.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right. Yeah. I think that's wonderful. Hey, to be talked about is really sometimes even better than being watched. I think it would be. I think it's great. As long I can only promise those nice people that allowed that to happen that the show gets better and better, and there's plenty to talk about.
Are there any specific characters or storylines that you'd like to bring in that you haven't already?
Well, we have a great relationship with DC, and we sit down with them constantly, and we ask about origins of various characters, and and it's quite amazing how many don't have origins. Many characters just turned up as bad guys, and so it's a really, we feel honoured to be able to go back in this great legacy and say, okay, so how did they turn up like that? How did that happen? So yeah, no, we're having a lot of fun.
Cool.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks.